want to show how to use Dennis Pontonier's pixel filter node editors in conjunction with Janus. I use these pixel filter editors for specific passes that would otherwise be impossible to do with standard lightwave buffers. What I do is basically load up the node pixel filter editor and double click on that, and then I'm going to click on Ray Trace Global 3D Shading, and this brings up this whole slew of inputs in the root. Now what I do is actually standardize all these things, so that because they're all numbered, they don't make really any sense, so I have to standardize them to give them meanings. What I do with these pixel filter node editors is create a normals pass, an occlusion pass, and a point position pass. So let's say I go over to spot info. By putting the normals into global color 1, I get a normals pass. By putting world spot to global 3, I get a point position pass. Obviously I put it into a color because it's a vector, it's blue to red, and you need a vector to express that. What I'll do is get a shader for my occlusion. I'll get a normal occlusion shader. Now you could use anything that you want. I'll just set up some stuff here, probably 15 millimeter, rather meters, and then plug the output to the global alpha 2. Since it's scalar, I'm just putting it to the alpha. So all I have to do is remember it, that the normals will always be in color 1, occlusion is in alpha 2, point position pass or the world spot pass is in global color 3. Now this is so far as I just set up my passes very quickly. After this I need to actually go over to DP kit over here and look at the processing and get this get global buffer node. This is actually a saver node, and you do nothing with it, it needs to exist. If you double click here, you see all the names, and if you were using this outside the context of Janus, you would need to input the file name, the paths, and the file types. Janus controls everything. If you use it with Janus controls this bit over here, so you don't have to do anything. But before you can do that, we must rename this to something that Janus can understand, because it doesn't assume, Janus will not assume that you're using this in its own context. So you rename the node as JN DP buffer, and Janus will know to pick this up and control it. So I'm going to close that, and back in Janus I need to set it up. So in render buffers, under the scene processing volumetrics and render buffers, I select on Dennis Pontonier's extra buffer saver or DP buffer, and here I'll activate the buffer export, and you see two tabs, get extra buffer and get global buffers. Get extra buffer is a shader or surface based, while global buffers is based off the pixel filter editor, and this is what we'll use. So I will check in the RGB, the gray, those three buffers, and if you remember, normals is the first, occlusion is the second, and the third is the point position pass or the world spot. Now at the bottom here, I'm going to select OpenEXR, and because I want to float FP format, especially for my normals and for my point position pass, it's quite important to have that. So it's okay. Now, as you can see, there's a check marks because we activated it inside the front end. So there's a choice whether you can actually, if you want to apply all the buffers on every pass, which you probably won't want to do. If you don't want to do that, then you can, for example, select the character add using the plus minus key here, and it would say here buffer on. The rest won't draw or won't apply the buffer even if it's activated, because there's no checkbox or it hasn't had the buffer subcommand appended to it. So if I render this off, test render. So this is the rendered image, but what's more interesting is what those render passes, the point position pass, normals, and occlusion came up with. So over here, in the test renders, we'll have a look at the normals. And so this is our normals pass. As you can see, there's some artifacting going on, and this has something to do with the pixel filter and how it's artifacting on matte black objects, which the ground was. You just couldn't see it because it was a matte object, but this is the cause of it. You can actually matte this out using the alpha of a previous beauty pass, so it shouldn't be an issue. The occlusion pass is quite the same thing. It still has that rendering error, and this is a pixel filter artifact problem. But again, if you have a clean matte cutting through here, then it wouldn't be a problem. You wouldn't see this thing at all. And for the point position pass, which surprisingly there's no artifacting that comes in, this is what it is. So basically, the pixel filter editors allows you to make those passes with one go, and Janus basically is able to control where they all end up in.